Hi guys, James here from Mad Science Films, and in today's video we're going to be discussing upgrading. When to upgrade, when not to upgrade, and things to consider when thinking about upgrading your cameras. So I've discussed this briefly in other videos which I've done for Mad Science on my own personal channel about my cameras and what cameras I have, and then if I've bought new cameras and I've sold cameras, the reasons why. And I think I do that quite a bit, in all fairness, hence the content. So I'm sure it's benefiting you guys at home. But I do often get a bit restless. I do change cameras, perhaps too often. But I've always had a core central pro camera selection. So I've had a few cameras which are more pro. And for the longest time, it's been my Lumix S1, Lumix S5, my G9, and recently bought the GH5. And I bought the GH5 for long form, like event videos, because of that unlimited recording, which the G9 doesn't have. And I've always liked to work with the full frame cameras and with Micro Four Thirds. So for me, Micro Four Thirds just makes a lot of sense. I enjoy using Micro Four Thirds for travel and for photography, particularly street photography, and there's a huge advantage to the lens sizes when it comes to Micro Four Thirds and its ecosystem. A lot of people argue with the size of Micro Four Thirds bodies now are quite big, almost full frame. Well, they are full frame body sizes, but it's the lenses, particularly the telephoto lenses. Just physics won't allow you to have a full frame telephoto lens the same size as a Micro Four Thirds telephoto lens, and that for me, it's still one of the biggest reasons to stick with Micro Four Thirds. Also, the resolutions and frame rate options you get with Micro Four Thirds, and the ability to have no crop in higher frame rates, is another big reason to stick with Micro Four Thirds. And it's all very subjective, and I guess there's reasons why some people would just stay clear of Micro Four Thirds because the things I've mentioned are perhaps not as important to you. But I love Micro Four Thirds, and so yeah, I wanted to have full frame and a Micro Four Thirds body to work alongside those full frame bodies. Now the G9 II has recently come out, and it got me thinking recently about upgrading to the G9 II, and I wasn't willing to get the G9 II brand new because the pricing was quite high at the time. But I did look on eBay, and there was a brand new G9 II grey import for only £1,500 or £1,550, which is a bit more reasonable in terms of pricing for a new Micro Four Thirds camera with the abilities that the G9 II has. So I was thinking to myself, could I sell some bits and pieces which I no longer use, then sell the G9 and the GH5 and have pretty much enough money to buy the G9 II. Therefore, I can get to that 3-camera setup, which I've always wanted, and I don't have 4+ Canon cameras and other Lumix cameras. I can really condense those cameras down into my professional cameras to just 3. So the journey began in my brain to upgrade my Micro Four Thirds cameras. The G9 II offers so much for content creators and filmmakers and all kinds of shooters out there. Very, very capable camera that literally wipes the floor with the G9 and the GH5, although the G9 and the GH5 in their own right are just really fantastic cameras. So the G9 II for me made a lot of sense. When you're in that mindset, for me personally, it's a bit of an infectious thing that kind of gets me thinking about all my cameras, and I was trying to rein myself in. But I was thinking then about my S5 S5, the original S5. There's a few things about the S5 which have bugged me since I bought the camera. Those little issues were little seeds in my brain that it was kind of growing into a bigger thing, and I was thinking about the camera and those little niggles. And those little niggles were things like the lack of a full-size HDMI. There's no 10-bit unlimited recording with the S5, only 8-bit. And there's no 6K open gate with the S5. And that's a shame, because 6K has proven to be such a useful tool for many reasons, from being able to mess around with the framing after you've shot the footage, and also it proves to be very useful when it comes to social media content. So naturally that got me thinking about the S5 II and the S5 IIX. Now I did recently have a play with the S5 IIX thanks to the Panasonic loan scheme, and it's a really, really good camera. And the S5 II and the S5 IIX, they offer me everything that the S5 had, plus more features such as this 6K open gate, real-time LUT loader, and that 10-bit unlimited recording. Also, one little thing, well, I say little thing, it's quite cool actually, was thanks to the phase detect autofocus system in these S5 II bodies, you can then use your Canon lenses in full AFC mode on the S5 II or the S5 IIX. And for me, that was making the S5 II or IIX quite tempting, because I do have a lot of Canon lenses, and I can breathe new life into these older Canon lenses with an upgraded body. So with an S5 II upgrade, which I went for, here it is. Yeah, went for the S5 II over the S5, and very happy with this camera. It's a real beast in regards to what it can do for stills. I've used this on a couple of jobs for photography, and it's a very capable content creation camera, and for most freelance video work it'll do a really good job for you. After buying the S5 II, I had enough money then to go ahead and buy the G9 II. But before I pulled the trigger on the G9 II, I just had a little think about what it is that I needed from this Micro Four Thirds camera again, and what the G9 II offered me that I wasn't getting from my GH5 or the G9. So the G9 II, it had unlimited 10-bit recording, it had 6K open gate, it had all-eye codecs, it had no crop in the higher frame rates, and with the new phase detect, it had a much better autofocus system than any Micro Four Thirds to date from Panasonic. It also used the same batteries as the S series or the S5 cameras, which was very convenient. It also had the latest user interface, so the menu systems were the same across the G series and S series cameras. So when using the full frame on the Micro Four Thirds cameras from Panasonic, everything just seemed a bit more fluid and a bit more intuitive. So with all those things I've just mentioned, is the G9 II the only camera that can offer me all of those features? Well, it turns out not. And I'm not just talking about the GH6 here. The GH6 is a very, very good camera, but that's still over £1,000. Could I find a camera below £1,000 that would give me all that I wanted from the G9 II? And it turns out I can. So this camera shooting me now in 6K open gate is the GH5 II. And the autofocus is pretty good. It's not like phase detect autofocus, but it's pretty good for this kind of setup. And it has all-eye codecs. There's no crop in any of the high frame rate shooting, and of course it's Micro Four Thirds, which is brilliant, is what I need. It's the closest camera to the G9 II without buying the G9 II and without going over £1,000. So I've saved myself a fair bit of money. Now, we can do the unlimited 10-bit recording. It's got a far more up-to-date user interface that's very similar to the S series cameras. I love the red box tally light there thing. That's just really useful when it comes to shooting with 3 cameras. You can quickly look and make sure all cameras are recording. Really good frame rate options, and the color science is really nice too. You can easily match these up to the S series. And yeah, the 6K anamorphic mode actually is your 6K open gate mode. So you're using the full sensor, you've got that 4:3 aspect ratio, and you're shooting 6K, which makes things great then if you want to punch in or whatever else, you have the ability to do so. It's the same autofocus as you find in the S5, which again, it's not phase select autofocus, but it's decent. It's not too bad. It's a lot fresher than the GH5. It packs more than the GH5 does, and the GH5 is a fucking fantastic camera. And I'm going to do a more in-depth review on this camera at a later date, but for now, I'll just leave you with the fact that the GH5 II is awesome. Upgrading is going to be part of your journey within the camera world, but just try and stay clear of all the marketing hype. Try and really think about what it is that you need and not what you want. And I think you'll find you'll be able to save some pennies and use those pennies to invest in your personal life, in yourself, go see the world, treat the missus so she won't be so hard on you if you do buy more gear. You know, plenty of things to put that money toward. So yes, bit of common sense here for me. I'm probably the worst person to give you this kind of advice because I fucking switch on my cameras all the time, but nevertheless, we can all learn to be a bit savvy when it comes to upgrading and a bit more wise when it comes to upgrading too. So guys, that's it from me. Hope you liked this video, and yeah, let me know your thoughts on upgrading. How often do you upgrade? Have you stuck with your cameras for the longest time? How long have you stuck with your cameras for? Do you often change your cameras? Do you agree with my little bit of advice there on upgrading and when to upgrade? You know, cameras are coming at us left, right, and center, and it's very difficult to ignore some of the marketing hype. I did say I was going to wait a year before I upgraded, or near a year, but yeah, you know, shit happens. What can you do? I'm only human. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave your comments down below. Goodbye.